The bell for fourth period echoed down the corridor, a shrill metallic sound that sent students rushing to their classes. Lockers slammed shut, voices overlapped in a chaotic chorus, and the faint smell of cafeteria pizza clung to the air. At the far end of the hall, leaning casually against the row of blue lockers, Blake Maddox smirked at his friends. His broad shoulders and cocky posture were enough to part the hallway like a tide, not because of respect, but because everyone knew he thrived on intimidation. Today, though, his attention wasn't on his usual prey. His gaze was locked on a girl he hadn't noticed before. She was small, almost delicate in build, with a black hoodie pulled over her head, hiding most of her face. A backpack hung low on her shoulders, weighed down as if she carried the world in it. She walked like she was trying to take up as little space as possible, keeping her head down. "New girl," Blake said under his breath to his friends, pushing off the locker. "Let's give her a proper welcome." He cut across the hall, his sneakers squeaking faintly on the polished floor. The girl, Ember Kane, heard his footsteps before she saw his face. She'd already learned in her short 2 days at North Ridge High that the sound of certain footsteps meant trouble. She didn't want to make waves. All she wanted was to get through senior year without drawing attention. But trouble had a way of finding her, especially in places full of people who thought strength was measured in how much fear they could cause. "Hey!" Blake's voice came from her right. She tried to keep walking, but his arm extended in front of her like a barrier. "You're new. What's your name?" But she lifted her eyes just enough to meet his. His smirk widened, expecting her to stammer or blush. Instead, she said, "None of your business," and stepped sideways to go around him. That should have been the end of it. But Blake wasn't the kind of guy who let anyone, especially a new student, brush him off in front of an audience. His friends chuckled, egging him on. "Not very friendly," he said, grabbing the strap of her backpack and tugging it back. "See, Mon, I'm just asking a question." Her hand shot out, gripping the strap before the pull could yank her off balance. She didn't say a word, just stared at him, with a look so sharp it made his grip falter for half a second. "Leave me alone," she said flatly. The laughter from his crew grew louder. Blake's pride bristled, and he took a step closer. "Or what?" he challenged. Ember's fingers curled into fists inside her hoodie pocket, her mind flicking through all the promises she'd made to herself to avoid confrontations. But something about his tone, the way his friends leaned in to watch, told her this wouldn't end unless she made it end. The shove came fast, Blake's palm against her shoulder, forcing her back into the lockers. The metallic bang drew the attention of half the hallway. A hush fell, the kind of silence that hinted everyone sensed something about to happen. Ember exhaled slowly. "You really want to find out?" she asked. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried. Blake's grin faltered for the first time. Still, he laughed it off, reaching for her hood to yank it down. That was his mistake. Her hand shot up, gripping his wrist with a force that made his eyes widen. In one fluid motion, she twisted. Not enough to break anything, but enough to send pain shooting up his arm. He tried to jerk back, but her stance was solid grounded. The hoodie slipped just enough to reveal her eyes, icy, unblinking, and dangerous. "Let go," she said. When he didn't, she moved. In less than 2 seconds, his wrist was pinned, his balance thrown, and he stumbled forward into the lockers with a thud. Gasps erupted from the watching crowd. One of his friends stepped forward, but Ember's glare froze him mid-step. Blake straightened, shaking off the surprise, his face darkening. "You think you're tough?" he spat. Ember didn't answer. She adjusted her backpack strap and started walking. That was when Blake made his second mistake, grabbing her by the back of the hoodie and yanking her off her feet. The hallway exploded in noise, shouts, gasps, the clatter of books falling. But before anyone could process what happened, Ember was already twisting midair, her foot planting firmly on the floor as she spun. Her elbow caught him in the ribs with precision, forcing the air from his lungs. He staggered, cursing, and came at her with a swing meant to intimidate, not actually land. But she sidestepped, hooking her foot around his ankle and sweeping him to the floor in one clean motion. The silence that followed was almost unreal. Blake Maddox, the guy no one dared mess with, was on the ground, staring up at the girl who'd just put him there without breaking a sweat. Ember didn't gloat. She didn't smile. She just looked at him for a moment, then said, "You don't know me. Don't make the mistake of thinking you can." She walked away, the crowd parting for her like she was a storm passing through. Blake sat there red-faced, more from humiliation than pain. His friends didn't rush to help him. They were too busy trying to process what they'd just seen. And that was the day North Ridge High learned something important. Some people you just don't push.